But Sanjiv Bajaj, Managing Director of Bajaj Finserv, he joins us live from Pune. Mr. Bajaj, always a delight to have you back on ET Now. Thank you for joining us. I'm sure your shareholders are curious to understand that why have you applied for the new banking license? Because in order to become a bank, you will have to change your existing business model. You will have to comply with SLR norms, priority sector norms, and you will have a different regulator to deal with. Is it worth the risk? Is it worth the pain?
Well, our shareholders, I'm sure Nikunj will ask us questions when we have our AGM later this month. But to answer your question, yes, there is no gain without pain. And the model for banking is clearly different to some extent from the NBFC model. And there will be some pain if we do get a license and if we move ahead towards it, short-term pain at least. And on the priority sector loan side, the CRR, SLR side, there will be challenges. There will be a need to build retail liabilities. But this is par for the course. Look at it the other way around. The regulatory platform as a bank is significantly stronger and more stable in the long term than the NBFC. Plus, as we have seen with a number of draft guidelines issued by RBI, I believe they will tighten on the bigger NBFCs as well. They've already started doing that. There was recently a note on debentures. So you will see that tightening up given some of the issues that happened or events that happened around us in the last few years. RBI is increasingly tightening on larger NBFCs, bringing them in a variety of ways closer to banks. And on the other hand, as you pointed out, it's not a cakewalk. Otherwise, you would not see 26 banking aspirants. You would probably see 100. So it's something that we are doing where we know short term there will be a transformation challenge. If at all it happens, let's be clear about that, we've only applied right now, but it is a short-term transformation challenge for long-term greater stability.
Sanjiv, but talk a little bit more in detail about this. How would you go about the NOFH structure? Would you be transferring the assets of Bajaj Finance into the banking entity? How would the insurance business fit into this particular structure then?
As per what we understand from RBI guidelines and the FAQs at this stage, we would need to create an NOHFC under Bajaj Finserv, and our shares in Bajaj Finance would go into the NOHFC. This is clear. As far as our shares in the insurance companies is concerned, the draft guidelines required them to come under the NOHFC. RBI has now left it to individual regulators to decide whether they would permit this change or no. So it is something which, if we do get the license in principle, at that time we will need to decide how to go about doing it. We are also looking at it with our lawyers for legal and tax issues around it. But I believe the simple structure will be an NOHFC under Finserv, which will hold shares in Bajaj Finance.
But Sanjiv, the promoter holding is at about 58.9% in Bajaj Finserv, and as per RBI norms, there should be minimum 51% of public shareholding. So what is the timeline of dilution in the promoter holding? And also Bajaj Finserv holds about 62% in Bajaj Finance, and the promoters will also have to dilute stake. So would you be looking at promoter dilution anytime this year?
So RBI has made it very clear what is the max level, what is the min level initially for promoters in the bank or bank entity, and over a period of time what is the max level they will permit. And we are fully aware of it. There is nothing that we will do till we know that we are getting a bank license. But if we don't, then life continues as usual. There are NBFCs today with book sizes over 2 times what we are currently, which is at about 18,000 crores. So life will continue as it is. However, if we do get a bank license, then I believe we have 18 months where we have to build the necessary structures in place, the corporate structures where we have to reduce our shareholding. So there is enough time available in this interim period.
Right. But I'm sure you must have done your numbers. What is your sense? How soon can a bank be profitable in India?
Again, there are different, I think there are going to be different models, right? In our case, we're not starting from scratch. So Bajaj Finance reported last year nearly a 600 crore PAT, and if it were to transform, I don't see it making a loss. But your margins may not grow or may not expand, and you may not see the 60-70% growth that we have seen in the last few years as we have built Bajaj Finance from a monoline financier to a diversified consumer lending company. So you will see additional investments going in setting up a structure required for banks. On the other hand, those that start from scratch will have a very different model. They'll have a much smaller book. They'll have all the investments going up front without profits coming from an existing book. And I think challenges there will be greater, if you ask me, because it's not easy building any new institution, let alone a lending institution or a bank, when you have significant competition all around you.
You're not giving me numbers. What I'm trying to gather from you is that what will be the cost of a rollout?
As I said, this will differ, Nikunj, case by case, right? It differs whether you're going to set up 25 branches, 100 branches. It differs whether you're starting from a 0 crore book or a 20,000 crore book. So I cannot talk in general. We have run numbers in our specific situation, which is too early to talk about. If we do get a license, we can always chat about it at that time.
But do you think the Indian banking space will only get, or the competition will only intensify going forward? PSU banks are getting more efficient, private banks are aggressive, and new banks will only intensify the landscape, and there is a strong probability that the kind of margins what private banks have enjoyed up until now because of lack of competition, that could get challenged.
You know, there is so much opportunity available in India, in most industries. And you're talking about banking. Let's look at insurance. What has happened in the last 10 years? You've seen a significant expansion in that business. There's no reason why the same thing should not happen in banking. There are thousands of banks in the US, the world's most developed market, the most intensely competitive market. And yet, there are new banks that come up. There are those that succeed and those that fail. So I don't think it's a structural issue at all. Of course, the PSUs are getting better. They must. But at the same time, look at the new banks that have come up in the last 10 years. Look at Yes, you look at Kotak, look at HDFC before that. They've all done fantastically well. And they continue to grow year on year with very strong growth numbers. So I don't see it as a structural issue at all. I believe there will be good banks and successes, and there will be failures. And in the last 20 years, we have seen that in India.
Sanjiv, there are some media reports that, certain entities are seeking certain exemptions as well from the RBI. Have you filed your application with any exemption as well?
No, we have not filed it with any exemption. There were clarifications we asked for in the FAQs. We got those. I must say the timeline in which the FAQs were put together was extremely short, and yet the level of clarity was superb. It doesn't mean every answer will go the way that the question is asked, but it was very clear, and that's why we had no clarifications left at the end of it. So we have applied. We know the obligations that we will have to undertake on the PSL side, on the CRR, SLR side, on financial inclusion, on the agricultural book side. So we have gone in with our eyes open, and we will give it our best shot if we get a chance.
Okay, again a hypothetical question. If you work with the assumption that you will get a bank license, and if you get a bank license, let's say in the first quarter of next year, which is FY15, how soon you will be able to roll out your first branch? Have you already thought of a name? Have you already thought of the logo sign, the colors, etc.?
So hypothetically, if we were to get it in the first quarter, we will have 18 months after that to launch, and that will be our plan.
And what kind of rollout plan do you have?
All the other questions we will answer along the way.
Okay, fair point. But if I'm a minority shareholder of Bajaj Finserv, my first question is, look, I like the existing business. I love the business. I love the way in which the company is run. Bank license will only add a new dimension. Is it worth that risk?
Is it? I didn't get the last bit.
Is the banking license worth the risk? Because I know the size of opportunity is large, but next 2 or 3 years we could be staring at some more pain. For a minority shareholder, is the bank license worth the risk? Because it will only challenge your existing business model.
So, Nikunj, we've had minority shareholders with us from our pre-demerger days were still with us in Bajaj Finserv, Bajaj Finance,